Okay, so we've turned it back on, and you're back at the calculator screen with the graph. Your graph should look different than mine because we actually changed the window from -3 to 3, but I changed it back last period for a reason when I was showing somebody something and I didn't fix it. We're first going to go through and save this because we're going to go and do something else, and then we're going to come back. Okay. You don't necessarily have to save things a lot. Last year, I didn't even show my calculus kids how to save until right before the AP exam because I wanted them to be able to save FRQ1 and FRQ2 and be able to go back and forth. But most of the time, you're going to do a question, and then you're just going to move on, and it doesn't matter if it's there or not. But knowing how to save could be important in case you're struggling on something. You can save it, then go make a new one to do something else, and then you can come in and ask a question. You don't have to retype everything. So it's a good thing to know. So here's what we're going to do. Everybody at this graph screen? Okay, and don't get ahead of me because I don't want you to erase this. You're going to click the on button again, the home button. We're going to click 1 for new. And you should have the option, do you want to save the changes to, yours probably says untitled. This time we say yes, you want to save it. So click yes. I can't do the same things because I can like. So click yes, and then you get to name it like you would like if it was a file on the computer. So you could just name it, I named mine Poly Key Features or Polynomial Key Features. That's what the paper is named. And then once you type in a name for it, hit yes or enter or okay or whatever it says. Okay? I'm going to say no because I don't want it to say because I messed it up. Okay? Then make Poly Key Features or whatever you want to name it so you know what it is. It's not like you have to keep it forever. We're just practicing, so it's fine. You can name it practice if you want. I don't care. Okay? Are we all good on that? And then, so then you should be back at this screen, right? It just looks different than this. That's why I'm sure. Sometimes I wonder if mine looks the same as yours. All right, are we here? Are we all good? I don't want to lose anybody. Okay, so we're going to start from scratch, and we always add what? Calculator and graph. Okay, so 1 for add calculator. Then how do I add another page? Control doc, which is add a page, and then I'm going to add my graphs. Add my graphs. Okay. So then we're at a blank graph, right? So before we do anything else, so that I don't forget like I did last period, and this may not be an issue for y'all, but especially since I'm recording, I want to make sure that I've corrected this because I know I didn't do it in the mornings yesterday. We need to go back to some settings. So do this for me, even if we already did it, because maybe things hadn't changed for you. But some of y'all have different buttons than I do because it depends on the version of the calculator. And the version of the calculator I use is different than what most of y'all have in your hands just because my classroom set is white. And if yours is black, it's just different years. It's not like one's necessarily, one probably is better, but you wouldn't notice, except that some of the choices are different. So everybody have a graph looking at them? Yes? So we're going to click menu. And I know we did this yesterday, but do it again. 9 for settings. Hopefully it's still correct. You want it float 4 and these two things checked. Then what I told most people yesterday was then hit OK. But that's because that's the only button I have. You have a button down here that says make default, maybe. If yours looks like mine, you can just hit OK. If you have a key that says make default, click make default. That way, because otherwise it'll work just for this one graph we're on, okay? And we want it to work for all of them. That's why I wanted you to bring your calculator, right? So we could fix that. And then, so once you do that, you should be back at the graph. Yes? Did we all make default? Did I make you do make default yesterday? I did? Okay. Well, we're doing it again anyway because I have to video. So, all right. So now one more time to check settings, and this will double check y'all as well. So you're going to click menu. So we're back to, nope, we're not going to click menu. We're going to click escape because that's not what I meant to do. Escape, just like Control Z on the computer, my favorite button, undo, because I mess up all the time. Escape helps you get out of everything here. So we're going to click the home button, back at the black screen. 5 for settings. 2 for document settings. And here's what we want to check here. Float, radian, and calculation mode approximate. So check that. Float, radian, don't worry about any of the rest of the stuff, but float, radian, calculation mode. And then you have make default, click make default. Yes, so yes. It's 5 for settings, yes, 2 for document settings. Float, radian, approximate. Okay, and then once you've clicked make default or OK, then we're back here. Now we've already created a new one. I don't want to create another new one. How do we get back to what we just had? 4 for current. There we go. Okay. So now once you're there, I want you to put your calculators down and hands off for just a second so I know that you're paying attention to me. And so if we want to graph something that looks like this, make sure I'm using the same thing I made up so it makes sense. Got x plus 1. You don't have to write any of this down. Just stay with me right now. X plus 2 times x minus 1. Okay. So let's say that we want to graph this. And let's say we had the 83 calculators that most teachers have in their classrooms. And I know y'all been using Desmos for the last couple of years, and Desmos makes things very nice as well. But it makes it easier to type in than calculators a lot. But if I had to do it on one of those old clunky 83s that you get on all the tests when we hand out calculators, then I would have to type something in that would look, I have to use lots of parentheses, right? Because if I just do x plus 1 divided by x plus 2 times x minus 1, is that going to give me the graph I want? No, because it's going to take x and then add it to 1 divided by all that mess, right? So I have to have these parentheses. Is that going to give me the graph I want? No, because this would divide and then multiply by that. So I need another set of parentheses, right? And then when you get a bazillion parentheses in there, that's all you can see. You can't figure out where you missed one and where your extra one is, and you're getting an error, and it's very frustrating, right? So yes, we can type things like that on the calculator on this one, but we can get around that too. So just making sure that you know how important this button is. We're going to type in that very graph that we just had, but I'm not going to do it with all those nasty parentheses. Here's your division key. Right above the division key, you see how you have the little boxes that kind of look like a fraction? So you're going to hit Control Divide, and it gives you the fraction. It's like in Desmos, when you just hit divide, it pops up and makes a fraction. Here you have to hit Control Divide. Now you can type it in just like it looks on your paper. I don't need parentheses in the numerator. I can just type x plus 1. Then I can arrow down to the denominator, and that was x plus 2 times x minus 1. And then what do I do to be able to see my graph? I press enter. And this, my friends, is a rational function. And we're about to start talking about rational functions again, which is definitely something you do in Algebra 2. Does it look like we have some asymptotes here? Yes. Does it look like we have a horizontal asymptote? I heard yes and no. Y'all doing okay over there? Do you need some help? Are y'all getting it figured out? It's okay. Are we stuck? Are we lost? What happened? Oh, I'm sorry. It was x plus 2 and x minus 1. Yes. Yes. Sorry, I guess I went too quick. Syntax. Oh, because you have x minus nothing. Okay. All right. Does it look like we have a horizontal asymptote? Yes. Where would that be? What's the equation? What's the equation for the horizontal asymptote? Is it a y equals or an x equals? So y equals. Y equals what? 0. Okay. Now, but what makes this weird and makes us not sure if it's really an asymptote? The middle part, yeah? Okay, so here's the thing. Were you told that you can never cross a horizontal asymptote? Okay, good. Because if you were, because I know some of you were, right? Raise your hand. It's okay. It's probably most of you. Told you can never cross a horizontal asymptote. That's a lie. Okay, you can totally cross a horizontal asymptote. You can cross a horizontal asymptote an infinite amount of times because horizontal asymptotes deal with in-behavior. We don't care about what's going on right here. So this part in the middle here, this doesn't even really have anything to do with the asymptote, right? It's more these that are getting closer and closer and closer to the asymptotes. So even this part here, this could come up above the axis and then start going towards 0 on top, or it could go up and down and then start. It's about what's happening at the ends that we're approaching 0. So just know that for horizontal asymptotes. You can totally cross them. Does it look like we have vertical asymptotes? Yes, we can never cross those because that affects domain. You can cross horizontal, you cannot cross vertical. Where does it look like our first vertical asymptote is? -2 is a pretty good guess, right? And it's x equals -2 because it's the equational line. Where does it look like this one's at? Around 1. Okay, so last period I had somebody say on the first one, -1, and then they instantly corrected themselves to -2. Like they misspoke. They didn't really think it was there. But we're going to use their mistake to kind of think about, let's see how we know, because it's not drawing the asymptotes in there, if it, where is it really? So we're going to go to the calculation screen. So Control and left. And so I want to find the function value when x is -1. So I'm going to do f1 of -1, where they told me at first that the asymptote was, and I get 0. We're also going to find the function value at 2, where we really, or -2, I'm sorry, -2, where we really think it is. Okay. Ooh. Oh, I did F2, that's why. I was like, what? Sorry, I did F2 for some stupid reason. F1 of -2. 2 was on the brain. Okay. So ignore my middle line there. F of -1 and F of -2, one of them is 0, one of them is undefined. Where is our asymptote? -2, because it's not defined. So what I wanted to show you here is that unlike some of the other calculators, when you get an undefined, it tells you it's an error, and you don't know if your error is because you messed something up or because it's undefined, right? That's why when I got this, that's not, the function is not defined, and that's true. That doesn't mean it's not the same as undefined. It means F2, which I tried to use, there's no function there. So that's what that was, but undefined, there is no F2, yeah. All right, so F of -2 is undefined. That tells me that I have a vertical asymptote there. Okay, we good on that? Now I'm going to show you one more thing that can happen to you. It's happened to quite a few people over the last couple of days. It has definitely happened to me. And yesterday I just went around and fixed it because I didn't want to blow everybody's mind with all this extra stuff. But I'm at least going to show you in case it happens to you. So let's hit Tab and pretend like we're not actually flashing. But we're going to put something in F2. So when you put stuff in, once you start deleting it, if you hit delete too many times, you get that. And then when people try to get out of it, they end up changing it to a relation, okay? And so I can still see my graph, but if I go back over here and then I want to go back up and either turn on that Y that I had or change stuff, I have nothing, I have a relation, like I can't see my F's, right? So if you're doing anything with the graph, your first go-to is menu. Okay, then we think about, what does it make sense? What am I trying to do that I can't do right? I'm trying to enter my graph, right? So 3 is graph entry edit, 3. And then what do I really want to work with? Functions. None of the rest of that stuff for sure right now. 1 for function, and I'm back to my function stuff that actually makes sense, okay? Because that'll happen to you by accident, and you won't even know what had happened. You won't even know what you did, and that's okay. We just have to know how to get out of it, all right? We good with all that? Okay. Any questions on any of that? All right, so I just wanted to go through some of these things with you. So now we're going to go back to the functions that you had in there yesterday. So to get back to that, we're going to hit the house. We're going to go home. I don't want new. I want to browse, okay, just like you would on the computer. So 2 for browse. Now I have a whole bunch of more stuff in here than you probably do. But you arrow down. You may only have one thing. So whatever you called it, I called mine Poly Key Features. So once you're highlighted on that, just hit enter. And then do you want to save the unsaved document? We don't need to save what we just did. I just wanted to show you some things so you can say no. You don't want to save everything or you'll have a nightmare amount of stuff in there. And then now you're back to your graph that you had. Okay? You don't want to save them. I mean, you can, but you don't need to. I wouldn't save everything because then you're just going to have a ton of stuff and you're not even going to know what it is. How are we doing? Okay, so one of the things that I told you when I gave you this paper yesterday that I know some of you attempted to start and I know some of you didn't, was that I wanted you to take, so on this graph, you have everything you need, almost everything you need, to answer the questions at the top of that paper I gave you yesterday. What we didn't do is we didn't find all 3 of these answers. Remember we drew that red line and then we found an intersection? There was 3 intersections. We only found 1. So you're going to have to go back and find the other 2. But every other point that's on there that we already did together is the information that you need to fill this stuff in. Y-intercept should be in parentheses because it's an ordered pair. You only need the x values for 2 through 5 and then intervals for the rest. So you're probably going to end up practicing moving some points around because they're on top of each other, but make sure when you move them, you know what's what. Don't just move them all and organize them in a line because then you may not know where they came from. Make sure you know what's what there, okay? Once you finish this, which it shouldn't take you too long, then I will give you your actual assignment for today, and that is, and so the sooner you get that filled in, the more time you'll have to work on the other. Okay. Any questions at all on that? Okay, perfect.